Oh God, Dane.
Breath of Fire is a colorful series that prides itself in unique party members, field skills, turn-based combat, and fusion shenanigans. And it all started with the first title in the SNES, Breath of Fire 1. Now this list is incredibly straightforward. We're considering stats, accessibility, and that's about it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more RPG tier lists. We'll start with the tier. If you've watched my top 10 worst party members video, then you'll know that Gobi sucks. His usefulness in navigating water is useless by the time you get it, and his advantage in battle only comes while underwater, which you will be done with the only water dungeon in the game by the time he joins. Aside from fusion fodder, there really isn't a reason to use him. Mogu is the last party member you obtain, and aside from his field skill, he is pretty useless. Sure, he could replace Nina if you really want a worse support unit, and you probably won't bother with fusion, so he's really an instant bench party member. The low tier. Ox seems to join just as Bo's usefulness is tapering off. He's incredibly tanky and has a decent attack as well, but he just is way too slow to consider using. He'll be gobbled up by Karn's fusions pretty soon after recruitment. The mid tier. The only reason Bo is here and not in the low tier is because he's one of your earliest party members, and in the early game will be your single best party member. He has starter spells, a long range attack, and decent stats to get you through the opening hours. After that, he loses most usefulness and, like Ox, will be mainly used as fusion material. The final member of the mid tier is Nina. Nina essentially is a required party member. She's your only true healer, as healing items are subject to the agility stat, but healing spells are not. Her spells are useful, though her damage will always be behind everyone else's. Despite this, she'll be on most people's endgame party. The top tier. First on the top tier is Blue. Blue is recruited in the mid game and at a lower level, but her EXP growths are higher than anyone else's. This means that in the late to end game, she'll be a dozen levels higher. She has the highest HP and AP of nearly any party member, which allows her to tank hits while spamming spells like Bolt X during battle. All in all, she's one of the best party members in the game. And speaking of one of the best party members, Karn is a fast but essentially useless party member. That is until you gain the ability to fuse him with your bench members. Karn's stats will be boosted by every additional party member fused, ending at 4, though most players will just do 3. Bo, Ox, and Gobi. These fusions make him a god, and if they were placed earlier in your playthrough, and more easily accessible, he might have landed in the god tier. Speaking of, let's wrap this up with the god tier. Ryu is easily the best character in the game. You obviously have him from the beginning, and he has above average stats nearly all around. In normal battle, Ryu's boomerangs make him a mob clearing machine. But when one considers his dragon forms, it's obvious why he's at the top. The dragon forms give Ryu an incredible stat boost, and once you obtain endgame dragons like Rudra or Anji, there really isn't a single boss that can stand up to him. And that's our list. If it's not obvious, essentially the only logical endgame party would be Ryu, Karn fused, Blue, and Nina. Switch Nina for Mogu if you want some variety. We'll be examining the 9 different playable party members in this gem. Breath of Fire 2 doesn't have too many unique mechanics we need to level set on. The main one is the shaman fusions. Once you've reached a certain point in the story, party members can be fused with shamans to make better, more powerful units. This, along with stats, equipment, accessibility, and overall usefulness, will be considered in the ranking. The tier. When a party member's best attribute is their field skill, you know you have a problem. Jean, the frog, is an underwhelming DPS whose speed and overall combat performance is lacking. His Holy Shaman fusion does have the chop ability, which can be awesome for burst damage, but its charge time and general unreliability make Jean the worst party member of the game. The low tier. At the cost of a damage-dealing party member, Spar can be useful. Unfortunately, aside from his buffing and debuffing, Spar brings little else to the table. He's slow and hits for some of the lowest damage in the game. But if you're willing to have a dedicated support party member to beef up your other party members, specifically attack up, Spars is the right choice for you. Bo is an excellent healer, probably the best in the game. He has arguably the best healing spells in BOF2 and comes with the Twin Bow, which, with the right setup, can dish out great late game damage. He's your early game healer, but Bow's greatest flaw is his accessibility. Bow will not be available to the player for a large chunk of your playthrough, landing him in the low tier. The mid tier. Sten's Sway ability, which allows you to switch out enemies in an encounter, makes his fusion form one of the most useful in the game for farming an XP. Without the Shaman system, Sten would have landed in the low 2 tier, but if the player capitalizes on the Shaman fusions, Sten will be a must for grinding. Although Bow is a great healer, it's generally recommended that Rand be your main party's healer, as he doesn't just have vital skills, but is an absolute tank as well. Rand's survivability is unparalleled, and despite his low speed and terrible equipment, his healing plus decent damage to boot makes him one of the better characters in the game. Nina is the second best mage in the game and probably should be in the top tier. If given Missile from Baros early on, she'll most likely be your best damage dealer through the early game. In the late game, Nina will learn some devastating DPS spells as well as a debuff for the enemy. The issue here though is twofold. One is that she's incredibly squishy, and the other is that Blue will completely outpace her, which just leaves the utility of her Angel Summon in the endgame. The top tier. Cat essentially turns any player into a furry-loving basement dweller. Cat is your best physical damage dealer with incredible speed and attack power. Give her the Devil Shaman fusion and suddenly you have one of the best damage dealers in the game. Similar to Nina, Cat is incredibly squishy, but her unrivaled damage and the ability to almost always act first offsets this. The God tier. Ryu lacks the ability to fuse, but has the series staple of Dragon Transformations. Dragon Transformations provide the highest burst damage for both single target and multi-target encounters. Ryu also has the second best stats in the game, some of the best equipment, and the general utility of a series MC. Manage his AP correctly and you will have an absolute powerhouse, capable of taking down the hardest encounters in BOF2. Blue is recruited overleveled, has the highest stats in the game, comes with Bolt X, which is the best defensive spell in BOF2, and has self-sustained survivability through Shed. Few RPG party members can rival her in sheer ability to break the game. Blue is a hidden party member for good reason, as finding and utilizing her objectively broken abilities is unrivaled. Needless to say, she's the best party member in the game. Now as for best party, there are a lot of interesting combinations you can build out. Generally, Ryu and Blue are always recommended. If you want more damage capability, Devil Fusion Cat is also a great pick. Rand and Bow both handle any healing, and if you want to boost your attack even further, you can always throw in Spar for kicks and giggles. Breath of Fire. What happened to all of these dead RPG IPs? Now, I will admit that the Breath of Fire games have been difficult for me to get into. But despite that, I can still appreciate the deep mechanics, colorful world, and absolutely breathtaking, top-of-the-line pixel art. Today, we'll be examining the 6 playable characters in Breath of Fire 3, a PS1 and PSP title that is largely considered to be the best Breath of Fire game ever developed. Now, BOF3 has an interesting mechanic where you can assign a party member a master. These masters will influence the stats your assigned characters gain during each level up. There are dozens of masters scattered all over the world of BOF3, and this mechanic does make placing party members in a tier list pretty tricky. Depending on which master you choose and when you assign them, you could completely change a character's endgame build, making those choices pivotal. For example, if you were to set Ryu on Bunyan in the early game, he would grow to become one of the strongest physical attackers in your party. On the other hand, if you were to place someone like Nina or Momo on Deus, you would have a devastating mage. So, in order to get the best results, we are going to base this tier list off of optimal master usage. Let's start with the tier. Gar's balance in this game is completely out of whack. His speed and AP are nerfed to such drastically low levels that he's nearly unusable. His reprisal, or counter rate, is super low, which only makes his speed an even worse issue, since the only time he'll be able to influence the battle is during his own turn. But that doesn't keep until the end game, even with the right masters. In a game where Pico exists, there is just no reason to use Gar unless you absolutely want to. The low tier. If Nina didn't have one of the highest speed stats in the game, then she would have landed on the tier with Gar. Given a master like Marileap, Layden, or Deus, she can become a wicked fast support and healer, able to abuse the resist skill in between using spells to make her nearly unkillable. Unfortunately, her magic scales terribly, and her skill set is just plain bad, and ultimately, she needs the assistance of other party members to be viable. The mid-tier. Momo is probably one of my favorite BOF characters ever. Unfortunately, her usefulness as a party member is hit or miss. First of all, for a support mage, she has incredible attack, but she has terrible accuracy, so it's unlikely she'll actually connect. Her best place in the party is as a buffer healer. She has decent speed, and if given a master that focuses on AP growth, she'll be very effective in that role. If she takes on the support role for the party, that leaves characters like Ryu, Ray, and Pico to focus on damage. The top tier. Ray is an incredibly fast damage dealer. Given improved speed through a master, you'll be popping extra turns off constantly. If transformed into Were-Tiger and given commands by another party member, he'll be your main damage dealer. The reason he didn't make it into the God tier is that Ryu and Pico have the ability to put out the same kind of damage without going berserk and requiring commands from another party member. Alright, let's wrap this up with the God tier. There is only a single way to build up this strange bulb-like plant, Pico. He is acquired at level 1 during the mid-game, and so he's very underleveled. This may seem like a handicap, but with the master system, it is not. If Pico is immediately paired up with the master Fall, by the end game, he will be an HP tank with one of the highest strength stats in the game. Now, he'll be slow, but his counter rate will be through the roof. Throw this guy out front as bait and have your other party members go to town. The final member of the God tier and top of this list is Ryu. Because of his dragon forms, Ryu is the single best character in the game. The main obstacle to this is Ryu's AP. If boosted, Ryu's true Kaiser form, which triples all his stats, can nearly one-hit most enemies in the game. But if you'd like to go a different direction, Ryu's other dragon forms can make him one of the best healers and support units in the game as well. So there really isn't anything he can't do. Breath of Fire 4 might be one of the prettiest games on the PS1. Ignore the awkward 3D models and you have a lush and colorful hand-drawn world with some of the most animated and detailed character sprites I've ever seen. You also have a highly dynamic and customizable battle system and party members. And that's why we're here today. We're asking ourselves, who is the best party member in Breath of Fire 4? Now, similar to my BOF 3 tier list, ranking party members here is tricky. Once again, you can use the Master system to influence your party's stats. For example, Nina is a powerful glass cannon, but given the right master, and she can gain a higher defensive stat, fundamentally changing her character's role. There's also skills, base stats, and accessibility to take into account. On top of all this, the battle system allows 3 primary party members with 3 secondary members that can be swapped in at any time, meaning that all available characters can be useful. With all that being said though, this shouldn't be a long one, so let's jump into it. We'll start with the tier. The only member of the tier is Fo Lu. Fo Lu is a reoccurring character throughout the story. He's immensely powerful from the beginning and even possesses dragon transformations like Ryu. Unfortunately, he's only accessible during certain scripted sections and never joins the core party, making him, essentially, the worst party member. The low tier. Cray is the most inefficient damage dealer in BOF 4. He's not only incredibly slow, but also lacks any multi-hit weapons. For a physical damage dealer, this is a massive handicap. To add insult to injury, Cray has the worst AP of the bunch, meaning he'll lack the ability to spam his best skills. His best skills, like Quake and certain support abilities, can only be used a handful of times before his AP pool needs to be replenished. During the first few hours of the game, before you gain other party members, Cray's damage is useful, but with the presence of Ryu and Skyus, there is practically no reason to use Cray in the mid and late game. The mid tier. Ursula is undervalued in most rankings due to her lacking any real single target damage potential. But But in a game where 90% of battles are random encounters, Ursula's multi-hit attacks and crowd control really come in handy. Ursula is one of the 3 best magic users in the game and statistically has no obvious weaknesses. She's also incredibly resilient with her Revival Will, which has a chance of reviving Ursula when KO'd with 1 HP. This makes her survivability higher than any other party member. Unfortunately, aside from random encounters, Ursula isn't too useful in the harder fights, making her a mid-tier character. Most of us benched Urshin in our first playthroughs. She's a terrible physical damager, and as soon as another party member is available, she was swapped in the back row. She has low defense, so she can't be a tank, and her magic potential is abysmal. But due to some narrative revelations that come later in your playthrough, if a player invests in building Urshin's magic stats with masters like Abyss early on, Urshin will surpass both Nina and Ursula in magic damage. Urshin gains all 3 magic element spells and the incredibly powerful death spell. She can drag out magic combos and is also one of the best party AP batteries in the game. Overall, if you're willing to suffer through the early and mid game, Urshin will become a powerhouse in the late game. The top tier. Nina is almost a required party member, no matter which direction you're going. Nina's high intelligence and speed allows her to pop off healing spells before most enemies can attack. Her speed, more importantly, also allows her to control combos. By securing the first attack in most battles, Nina is key in setting up the best magic combos in the game, maximizing your party's damage. Her defense is terrible and she will die from any large physical attacks. But if a player capitalizes on her cheering will and swapping her back and forth from the back row, Nina will be one of the best characters from beginning to end. Skaius nearly made it into the god tier. Skaius' multi-hit attacks and skills like Shining Blade make for some of the highest damage potential in BOF 4. He starts as a solid party member and only gets better as time goes on. What makes Skaius better than most other party members is that on top of being one of the highest damage dealers with multi-hit weapons and high speed, he is also a secondary support. Skaius gains dozens of healing and support magic, allowing him to take some of the healing burden from Nina. This opens her up to focus on magic combos. Overall, Skaius is an absolute beast and one of the best party members in Breath of Fire 4. The God tier. This should be no surprise to anyone, but the single best party member in BOF 4 is Ryu. This iteration of Ryu in the 4th title has one of the best human forms in the series. With skills like Shadow Walk or Super Combo, he becomes immensely overpowered. Strategically using his dragon transformations to heal his HP and AP and exploit weaknesses, or just hit for critical damage, is the optimal way to devastate bosses. On top of this, any skill learned by Fo Lu will be transferred to Ryu in the late game. This tees him up for outrageous damage in the end game. And of course, we have the dragon transformations. Aura in the early game comes with an all-around stat boost and Dragon Breath. Later, transformations like Were, Mammoth, Knight, Punk, and finally Kaiser solidify his place at the top of this list. And that's our list. How did we do? Do you think Nina or Urshin should be higher? Or perhaps I overvalued Skaius' versatility? Let me know in the comments below. As for the best party, there are 2 solid setups that have been used for an optimal playthrough. In the late game, a magic-focused team of Nina, Ursula, and a buffed Urshin can make for some devastating magic combos. But the single best team for all-around usefulness is Ryu, Skaius, and Nina. This team has high physical damage, healing and support, and magic like Wind and Holy to cover any weaknesses. Thank you to all my supporters, and if you would like to become a part of the Low Cloud8 family and gain access to a library of exclusive content, join either YouTube membership or Patreon for only $1 a month. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bonus round. Top 10 coolest Breath of Fire characters, go. Number 10, BOF 2's Nina. Number 9, BOF 5's Lyn. Number 8, BOF 2's Sten. Number 7, BOF 4's Urshin. Number 6, BOF 3's Ray. Number 5, BOF 4's Ursula. Number 4, BOF 4's Ryu. Number 3, BOF 2's Cat. Number 2, BOF 3's Momo. And number 1 is Blue. No matter which one she's in, it's Blue. But probably BOF 3 because she's naked in that one.